What is up, everybody? Welcome to the inaugural episode of Talking into Infinity. I am your host, John. With me is my very good friend, Brian, my co-host. What is going on, man?
Yo, man, I'm excited to get this thing started to talk about all things Dream Theater.
We've only been working on this concept for like 2 months or something like that.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a lot of fun, man. I don't see any other podcasts out there doing anything like this. I think we're just going to, have a blast with it.
If we can just get past the technical issues that seem to continually plague us as we test things out,
That's right.
So anyway, so I thought kind of like to start out the show here kind of, you're a few years older than I am, and obviously, you're an actual musician. I just happen to be a singer, and I play in bands and stuff, but you actually know all the musical terms and everything like that. I'm not classically trained, but so how did you first discover the band? Like, when did you find them, and like tell the story of how you became a fan, I guess, to start it out.
Well, the funny part is do you remember the old days of the Columbia Record and Tape Club where you buy 10 albums for a penny?
Yeah, right.
So that was my routine go-to as a 20-something, even as a late teenager. Like, hey, I want to load up and get a bunch of new stuff. And one of the albums I got, it was in the metal section, and it was, for fans of, Queensryche and Fate's Warning and this and that, and it was this band Dream Theater. So the funny thing about it is I got the album. I listened to it 5-6 times. I thought it was okay. I really didn't think too much about it. Honestly, it wasn't my thing. I didn't hate it or anything. I didn't think it was terrible. It just wasn't really my bag. And then I ended up actually trading it into Record Exchange. And then fast forward 2 years later, I believe it was my old roommate who worked at Scene Magazine. He had a copy of Images and Words, and he was always getting all these CDs.
Okay.
And I saw Dream Theater. I said, well, this is that same band. And I said, well, let me give this another try. And I put it on, and I was just absolutely blown away. I mean, to me, it didn't sound anything like the previous band. Of course, they had Labrie at this point. But the songs, the structures, the melodies, the big, huge, fat guitar riff, chords and choruses, those were there. And I was just, man, my gosh, this is just absolutely amazing.
Sure. That's cool. Yeah. For me, it was kind of weird because I actually heard the band twice in '92, and it was kind of ironic because I had caught the video for Pull Me Under on MTV, and I was like, who is this? And I could never remember the name of the band when the video ended. So I was going to the local library, like, borrowing tapes and stuff, and I just remember they had long hair, so I'm pulling out stuff like Kix and Trickster and everything, which is like the farthest thing from Dream Theater. And so I could never find it. I was like, forget it, man. I don't remember what this is. And a few months later, I'm driving around with my buddy in his car, and he's got this tape going, and it's just all this crazy noodling. And I said, what the hell is this? And he says, oh, this is this band called Dream Theater. I'm like, this is terrible. I'll never forget. We still laugh about it to this day. I said, this is terrible. These guys need to pick a style. So fast forward a few years, and he's in college, and I go to visit him. And I got to his dorm room, and he was like, hey, man, I'm finishing up something real quick. If you want to put on some tunes and just kill some time, I shouldn't be too long. So he had a CD face down on his desk, and I looked at the track listing, and I saw the track one was Pull Me Under. I was like, oh, that's I've been looking for that song forever. I didn't look at who the band was. So I put it in. I'm like, yeah, this is that song. I've been looking for this forever. And he's kind of chuckling behind me. And then another day comes on, and then Take the Time, and I'm just really getting into it. He just starts laughing. And I said, what's so funny? And he said, you remember we were driving around in my car a few years ago, and you said, this band sucks, like, pick a style? I was like, yeah. He said, this is them. I was like, oh, my God. So it was really weird. I've been a fan ever since. And, when was the first time you saw them? Because the first tour I saw was Scenes from a Memory.
So it really wasn't too far after I had gotten that CD from my roommate, and I'm trying to remember if he even maybe got me tickets to it or I bought them, but I went to the show at the old Flash Gordon's on the west side, which I don't know if that was a little bit before your time or it was still around at the end.
No, yeah, it was still there. Yeah.
Okay. And it was just one of those incredible, like, to think back now, and actually found online, I found a set list. I was just curious because, I'm not going to remember what the heck they played in 1992 or I think it was 92. So I looked, they actually did play the entire Images and Words and threw in a couple from the first album. And so it was, but I just remember seeing them live. I mean, they sounded everything exactly like the record. There was no, there was no sequences or anything other than maybe probably for some of the keyboard intros, but, it was all 100% live, and it just blew me away. I mean, and that was with me, obviously partying way more than I do now at a Dream Theater show.
That's awesome.
And I still just remember it being so cool, man.
So Matthew Johnson, cool podcast, nice production too. Thank you for the compliment, man. Thanks for checking out the show. We appreciate it.
That's my piano partner, Matt.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right.
Shout
What's
out
up,
to
man?
Matt. He's the true musician. I'm not really much of a musician, man. And
Nice.
and just for so everyone out there knows, John downplays himself. He's an amazing singer, great bass player, great songwriter too. Something I have zero talent to be able to do.
Well, I appreciate that, man. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Sure. Checks in the mail, man.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I remember the first time that I saw them. Again, it was on the Scenes from a Memory tour, and it was they obviously they did the whole record, and then there's some encores, and I remember after the show, I was like, my ears were tired. I was like, I need to go listen to some AC/DC or something. Like I need something with a 4/4 straight beat. Like it was so overwhelming the first time, but then after that I knew what I was in for, and it was I literally haven't missed a tour ever since. So even that that show. I mean, we'll talk about this at some other point on the show, of course. But that one that we saw down at the in Columbus.
Yeah.
And it was like one of only 4 headliners they did on Black Clouds when they were opening for Iron Maiden. And
That's already starting.
Yeah, there we go. We got a troll comment. There we go. But hey, what's up, Stephen Engel, man? How's it going, man? So it's one of my buddies from Lima there.
Oh, nice.
So I haven't missed a tour, and it's just I've loved them ever since. I'm one of the pictures we put on our Facebook page is me from the what's the title of that documentary on Score? Like the Score so far or something?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm in that because I was at Radio City Music Hall for that show back in 2006. Stephen Wilson's awesome authorized biography of Dream Theater, Lifting Shadows. I'm in the back of that because I pre-ordered the super expensive version, and
yeah.
So all right, so we have a question. Lorenzo Zavala wants to know: do y'all think Dream Theater should have made another album with Derek Sherinian? And it's kind of funny you ask that because one of the main topics we wanted to talk about tonight was trying to introduce ourselves. As each of us was going to provide our favorite record and why.
Yeah.
And I happen to love Derek Sherinian's playing. I'm a big fan of Sons of Apollo for that reason. I thought he was great on A Change of Seasons and Falling into Infinity. So I definitely would have loved it. He provided something really different from the other two, Kevin Moore and Jordan.
Yeah.
So it was really, it was very different. I mean, what do you think?
Well, we were at that Sons of Apollo show, the one we stayed out about an hour and a half freezing our butts off to get in, remember?
Yeah, so when they couldn't get everything set up.
Yep. And I mean, as someone who was, I was way up in the front. You were kind of more back, but I mean, I was, I don't know, 7-10 feet from Derek Sherinian. I think I've come to the conclusion that he probably is, and best is such a subjective, but I think he's the best keyboard player in Dream Theater. And
really?
Yeah, he fits in more. He's a guy that just gets up there and plays and goes crazy. Like he doesn't. I've seen interviews with him where he talks about like, oh, I don't care about, sounds or like, someone's like, oh, do you look in the manual and do this? He's like, no, I just want to play and I just want to get in there and just start jamming. And there's something very organic about that. Okay. And Jordan Rudess is just so far out there, and I love all three of them. Jordan Rudess is like just from another planet. Yeah. And then you have Kevin Moore, who I love his playing because it's very Baroque, very classical piano, ish, very Bach inspired, especially like Images and Words. It just has Bach type of stuff all over it, and I'm a huge fan of Bach. which is funny because Kevin Moore turned into this totally different thing later on. You know, we talk about that some other time.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you just want a guy that's just going to get up there, and you just go, what is he? What is I don't even where does he get all these incredible riffs and his great playing and his tasteful licks? To me, that is actually Derek Sherinian.
Yeah. Yeah, I see. It's weird. It's like, it's hard to say best. I mean, they're all so excellent. I mean, oddly enough, if you're talking about technical proficiency, Derek Sherinian might be the like. I'm not saying he's a bad keyboard player, so take it with a grain of salt. The least talented of the three, but I think like Jordan is so technical and just so proficient at what he does, and Derek Sherinian is more like I think he used the perfect word, organic.
Yeah.
I like it's very natural. It's more of like a jam oriented feel to it, I would say.
Yeah.
And obviously, I think the one thing that Kevin Moore brought to it obviously was, beyond the keys. I think his contributions as a lyricist were very very prominent. So he had that part going for him. So yeah, that's hard to say best. It depends on what
and again,
what lens you're looking through.
He's not even on not even on what I consider the best albums or my favorite albums. So again, it's sort of subjective. But like are you familiar with Black Country Communion?
Yeah.
So like he's a guy that can step in and just play all that. It's a like you said, organic rock. He's the quintessential rock metal keyboard player, I think, is probably the easiest way to say it.
Yeah.
And like he does all that stuff with Black Country Communion, like John Lord type Hammond B3 stuff, and then beautiful piano passages, and then just busts out great synth leads and stuff like that.
Yeah. No, I would completely agree with that. Like I say, he's my favorite of the three. So that's why it's hard to say who's the best, considering he's the one I have the most preference for. So I guess a long-winded answer to Lorenzo's question is yes. I think they should have made another record with Derek Sherinian. But I mean, they were also having like they had kind of like a clash of personalities at that time with him. So that's kind of one of the other reasons that they, because they had tried to get Jordan in the band before Derek was in the band. Like they had to do kind of like a showcase type of a show to start out the Awake tour.
Mm-hmm.
And they needed a keyboard player because Kevin Moore left, and he wouldn't. They asked him if he would just do that one show, and then they could find somebody to do the tour, and he wouldn't even do that one show. He's like, nope, I'm out. And so they actually got Jordan to fill in for that one show, and then they did the Liquid Tension Experiment stuff. Right. And they had asked him to be in the band after that fill in, and he was like he didn't want to. He had a good job with one of the keyboard. I forget if it was Korg or Kurzweil at that time, and so he turned them down. And then after they did the LTE records, then they approached him again, and he was like, "Yeah, I'll do it." So, let's see. We got my buddy Steve says Kevin Moore's my favorite from a writing standpoint, as well as the parts and lyrics. The sampling was a great touch that was lost for the most part.
Yeah, it's something that after me just saying all this stuff about Derek Sherinian, I was thinking the other day, like, I would love to hear Kevin Moore with Jeff Scott Soto, because Kevin Moore reminds me a lot of Jens Johansson, who played with Yngwie, and of course, Jeff Scott Soto came from there. Mm-hmm. That real, like I said, that Baroque classical style of metal. Metal meets symphonic type stuff. Classical oriented. Like, I would love to see those two together. But Kevin Moore, from everything that I've heard and read, couldn't care less about any of that type of stuff at this point. So
no. Well, what's he, a psychiatrist now? Someone posted in one of the fan pages a picture. He's like a psychiatrist now.
Yeah, he is. And then I also think he changed his musical style to just be into like this ambient stuff. So I don't think he. Yeah. I could be wrong. He might sit at home and play classical piano for 2 hours a day when he gets home from being a shrink or whatever. I don't know, but
yeah, he. I know that Portnoy said that. God, was it the? Well, I know it was for the Score show, and it might have also been for the when Dream and Day reunite, that show in 2004, the 15th anniversary of the first record. I think he asked him to play on that one too, and Kevin Moore just like, I have no no desire to do that whatsoever.
Yeah.
So Lorenzo also says, if he was playing now, do you think Greg is it Jafria? Is that how you pronounce that guy's name? Greg Jafria would fit into Dream Theater. I am not overly familiar with his playing, so that might be a question for you.
Well, Greg Jafia is basically the main songwriter behind the band Angel, who was kind of one of those bands from the 70s that never, got going. But they also had he's done some, they had a band in the 80s as well. I don't know. That's kind of out there. I don't see that. I don't see that one happening. I mean, the guy's talented enough, but I think he actually makes, if I'm not mistaken, I believe he programs like slot machines and makes slot machines for Vegas or something like now.
Really?
Don't quote me on this.
Wow. All right.
Yeah,
interesting.
He does something along those technological lines of this or that, but
that's crazy, man. Wow. All right. Well, so why don't we jump into, kind of the meat of what we wanted to talk about. So we each wanted to present our favorite record, and I will let here we go. All right.
I'll let you go first, though.
Well, we have a question here. So John Toburin wants to know, okay, Brian, what song should I listen to that would be the ultimate Dream Theater song? I've never listened to them, and go.
Big John. John was we want all of our listeners to feel like part of the show. So in my old band Decade, John was like 6'9", and he would come out and do Vanilla Ice every day, and he nailed it, and people would go crazy. I don't know, because I want to do an episode where we go, here's the top 10 Dream Theater, like if you're scared of Prague, go to these instead.
Oh yeah.
So
yeah.
I mean, do you just say start with like Pull Me Under, or something like if you're into heavier stuff, like Root of All Evil? I'd love that.
Paralyzed on the new record.
Paralyzed on the new record. Barstool Warrior maybe.
But see, that one gets proggy.
Too proggy.
Yeah, I think if you're looking for something like if you're doing it, like you said, if someone's scared of prog, I would think you want something pretty direct.
I mean, something like Home, if you like Tool, because that riff is, it's kind of like 46 and 2.
Yeah.
I mean, just go out there, Pull Me Under. Looking Glass is actually pretty good. That's the one that sounds like Rush.
Yeah, Stephen Engel. That is a very good choice. Yeah, Stephen Engel says he'd go with the Looking Glass. That's a very good choice. Good call on that one. I think that might be the perfect one. I mean, we have to think about it a little bit more, but it's upbeat. It's not too proggy. It's catchy. It's got the cool riffs to it. Like
you want the big guitar riff, for sure.
Yeah, I definitely. Yeah,
man, we're getting like 7 more questions than I thought we'd have. This is great. People who actually care, or at least they're pretending to.
Yeah. Right.
Well, why don't you do your album first?
Okay. All right. So, not that this should be any surprise if you're watching the video, if you see my background, but my favorite record is not one that many people pull out, but it is Falling into Infinity. So that's why it was interesting, that Lorenzo asked about Derek Sherinian, because Derek Sherinian is one of the reasons why I love that record so much. And, you would use the term organic to describe his playing, and that's kind of how I feel about the record itself. It definitely stands out in their catalog. It's very unique to me because it's much more. I use the term loose. I would say more jam oriented. It kind of sounds like it's not as. It doesn't sound as precise, as planned out as the rest of their catalog. At that time they were trying to write. They were being just crushed with pressure from the record label to write another Pull Me Under. They wanted, radio hits, to the point where, John Petrucci even went and had a writing session with Desmond Child, for You Not Me. And so, it's, like I say, it feels like the songs are a little more straightforward. And I love all the crazy technical prog stuff they do. I just think there's something really cool and kind of heavy about the vibe on Falling into Infinity. I've always really liked it, and they kind of balance it out nicely with the ballads. You have Hollow Years and Take Away My Pain. Anna Lee is a super unique tune. I love that. And I mean, the record closes with my favorite Dream Theater song, Trial of Tears. So yeah, it just has a different vibe, and I wouldn't be able to specifically say why I like it the best. I just know that it's a little more hard hitting for me, and it kind of makes me rock a little bit harder than the other stuff. Even though their stuff is great, and I do rock out to that too. So, um, you know. So what about you? What is yours?
Well, just a couple comments on yours. Take Away My Pain, one of my all-time, if I'm making a dream list, like, God, would you, here's $500,
Yeah.
so I'm going to come see you. Can you play this? Please play this song.
Right.
The guitars, the way the guitars are on that song before it goes into the chorus, it's kind of a suspended thing, and it's just climbing up, and Petrucci just keeps playing that thing, and they're just masters of that entire songwriting style, as you and I have talked about before. But like, oh my God, I love that song. Love New Millennium. I love Peruvian Skies.
Yes.
I do think the production is a little weird.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, I actually think his guitar, other than on like his guitar on some of the other stuff, I don't know if it's like overly compressed, or it's a different sound. It's definitely, the sound is not the same as on the other albums for sure. And I don't know if he was trying something new amp-wise or whatever. And maybe that's why it does, like you said, it's definitely a different type of sounding album.
Yeah. There's just something about it. Like I was listening to it again today, and they get into simpler grooves a lot of the time, and it's something that they don't always do. And it's really cool. It's something about it. It's very direct for me. It hits really hard in so many parts of the music and stuff, and also knowing the backstory of it. There's a lot of stuff in the lyrics, kind of like F you to the record label type of a thing.
Yeah.
So that's
I like My Young has a lot of cool parts in that album for sure.
Yeah.
He's not always featured that much. Well, mine is no surprise, I guess, as we've talked before, because I already started out with it. It's so easy to go to Images and Words, but I just have to, because I don't think there's too many albums out there that it's just 8 songs of just complete masterpiece. Like, and they just flow into the other, and the more you hear them, the more you want to hear them. I mean,
Yep.
We went and saw what was it, in Pittsburgh?
Yeah, Greenville, Pennsylvania.
Was that the 25 year?
Yeah. Mm.
Or was it 30? Oh, it can't be 30.
25.
25, yeah. So we saw that, and like I've told you before, like every one of these songs starts out like almost with its own little bit of intro. You go Pull Me Under, it's got the guitar, Another Day, the piano. Take the Time, Surrounded has that keyboard part. Metropolis is like, maybe we should have told John Metropolis, because that embodies, I think, Dream Theater more than any. There's a ton of prog stuff at the end, but after the little bass riff, that solos, when everyone's doing those little solos, kind of going into the ending vocal part, that's the best. I don't know, 4 minutes.
Yeah.
4 minutes that you're ever going to hear this melodically. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's funny that you said that, because Dave Garza asked us in the comments. He said, "What would be the ultimate prog song that sums them up?" And that was actually my choice, because I mean, and that's the thing about you say that Images and Words is such a cliche type of an answer, but I think it's one of those albums that's so good that it's like if someone says, "What's your favorite Pantera record?" You can't really fault them for saying Vulgar Display of Power. You know what I
No.
mean? Like sometimes the record is just that good and that perfect. And it's, like with Metallica, you have arguments between Master of Puppets and Justice for All. And every once in a while you get somebody with Ride the Lightning. But it's like, with Dream Theater, I mean, each song is just so well crafted. And it's melodically, it's beautiful. And like I said, I think Metropolis Part 1 is like, and I think even to fans, I mean, that's why it's like their most popular song.
Yeah.
The fans love that song the most. And,
well,
there's a damn good reason for it.
You threw me for a loop because I thought you were picking Dream and Day Unite, but maybe you were joking when you said that. I actually I thought you were serious before. So
No.
I had all these notes based on that, and then I'm like, oh,
I do love that record. Like, and we're gonna do that in a future episode. Like, we're gonna do a deep dive into each of the records eventually. And I love When Dream and Day Unite. I think again, I mean, it sticks out like a sore thumb in the catalog, obviously, because it's the only one with Charlie Dominici, but I love it. The songs are cool. There's some really interesting things that kind of like you could see where they were going to go.
I'm trying to think though. Can you name and this was on a major label. This isn't like, oh, this was our demo. Like, can you name another band that the first major label to second major label releases were like this night and day? I can't. I kind of thought maybe Metallica, like Kill 'Em All to Ride the Lightning. That's such a huge leap, but it's obviously still the same band. You can tell.
Yeah.
James' voice was a lot higher when he was a borderline teenager or whatever when they did that first one. But
yeah.
But the production and the songwriting and everything just blows, Kill 'Em All out of the water.
Yeah.
When you compare the two in my eyes. So I can't think of, another one where the step and the leap was just ginormous. I mean, it's like.
Well, I think that's one of the reasons why Images and Words is so good is because they had, I mean, it was 3 years between releases, because when Dream and Day Unite was 89 on Mechanic Records, and then they got signed to Atco, whatever that Warner, whatever the major is there, but anyway, and they put out Images and Words in 92, but and they talk about this in again in the Lifting Shadows book, that it took them so long to find a replacement for Charlie that they had these songs done and they just kept polishing them and polishing them and polishing them to the point where they were just absolutely perfect. I mean, and if you have 3 years to work on an album,
Yeah.
I mean, you're growing musically just in that time, naturally. But then when you're around the music that much and you can fine tune every single little detail, it shows. And they never had another record like that one. I mean, they had stuff that was close, but you can definitely hear that is just absolutely so polished and so perfect in almost every respect. So
note to Guns N' Roses: 3 years between albums is okay. 17, then you end up with Chinese Democracy. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, apparently so. I love Guns N' Roses, but apparently they're no Dream Theater. Who knew?
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I mean, Images and Words is just a phenomenal record. I mean, every song. Like I said at the beginning of the show when I was talking about discovering the band, I heard Pull Me Under. I was like, yeah, this one. And then Another Day came out. I'm like, well, this is a really cool hook. And then Take the Time comes on with the the double bass, like it's metal and stuff, and it's got the soaring vocal, and like, what is this? And then it drops all the way down to Surrounded, and then of course Metropolis. I mean, it's like a ride. It's like a fully developed like musical ride. I mean, it's just awesome.
Right. Well, the other cool thing about Metropolis is, you get the call-outs to what's going to be coming on Scenes from a Memory. You get the references to that, and it's a Dance of Eternity, and it's like,
yep.
Sometimes when bands do that, it's cool, and sometimes, was Metallica on Unforgiven 9 at this point? Like, you know what I mean? Like, and do you have to do an odd number of Unforgivens? Because if you do 2 of them, you just unforgave what you already unforgave, right? So it's got to be like...
Now we're getting all grammatical on the show.
Yeah, but no, there's bands like Rush, like they have their what they call the trilogy of Fear, and Dream Theater also has what the 13-step thing or whatever.
Yeah, the 12-step suite.
12-step suite, sorry.
Yeah.
Which is cool, but it's neat to see, they're able to pull that off, and it's not cheesy. You're not like, oh, well, I already heard this on Images and Words, because anyone who ever listens to Scenes from Memory is just. You're almost as blown away as you are by this album, maybe more. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, that's another fairly common answer that I've seen when people are bringing up their favorite Dream Theater record. It's obviously Images and Words is popular, but then a lot of love for Scenes from a Memory, and I mean that is just an absolutely kick-ass record in and of itself. And like you say, it's based off of one song. On on Images. So, like I said, all the references to Dance of Eternity and the Miracle and the Sleeper and all that stuff. So,
Well, and I was close too. I think I told you I almost switched to Dramatic Turn of Events because I thought, well, Images and Words is too easy. So, but we'll talk about that album, I'm sure, at some point. So I don't want to go too much into it. But I probably put that second before we get to that episode. I don't want to reveal too much, but
right, yeah. So Lorenzo has a good point here. He said the good thing in music and bands is that it's a fan's perspective and no actual wrong answers. So that is very correct. And he says his favorite is A Change of Seasons. Can't go wrong.
Nope.
Can't go wrong with A Change of Seasons. That is a kick-ass piece of music. I love that one. Stephen Angle, he says, didn't they write Metropolis Part 2 to satisfy fans? The Part 1 was a joke, I believe. They just happened to write my favorite album from it. I don't know if they necessarily said it was a joke. What they said was they had named the song Metropolis Part 1 on Images and Words, and it wasn't specifically because there was going to be a Part 2. It was just they thought it was a clever song title, and
yeah.
But then as the years passed, people kept going, "Oh, what's Part 2? When's Part 2?" And they're like, "Okay, huh, what?" And so they ended up writing this. It was during the writing sessions for Falling into Infinity, if my memory serves me correctly, and they wrote this like 27-minute long thing that was Metropolis Part 2. And if you go out on YouTube, they released it in that Yitzy Jam series that Portnoy was running with all like the the crazy demo discs and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
But they released the whole thing, and if you listen to it, it's really fascinating because you can hear. I mean, what did John Petrucci call it? He said it was like the most crazy and meandering version of a really long song ever written, or something like that. But when you listen to it, you can hear parts of all the songs that ended up on the full album. So you could tell they went back like, okay, I like this riff, I like this melody, this drum pattern's really cool. So it's a very interesting listen because when you hear those little nuggets, you're like, oh yeah, that became, Spirit Carries On, that became this, that became that. So I don't think it was a joke. I think it was, they kind of were just like, okay, well, if we do this, like, let's see what happens. We can write a Part 2, make a story out of it. And they didn't like the big long song, and also with Falling into Infinity, because the label was pressuring them for singles, there was no way in hell they were getting a 27-minute song on that record. So they ended up just breaking it out into its own concept, and that became the Scenes from a Memory album. So
yeah.
So Dave Garza asks a question based on something we talked about earlier. He says, if you start with the direct stuff, like we were talking about, like Looking Glass and Paralyzed, and if you start with the direct stuff, will you get the wrong impression of what Dream Theater is?
I mean, I guess it sounds simple, but who cares? You know what I mean? I'm not saying that to be flippant. I mean, I think it's just a good way to introduce people. I think most of the albums, I would say outside of 6 Degrees, that's pretty. That's not one I can just sit there and listen to,
Oh, I can't.
Not nonstop, I don't think that would be a good one. I don't think someone put Change of Seasons. I don't think that's a good one for someone to start with, honestly.
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess what's your definition of the wrong impression? That they're really great songwriters who can branch out and, they can do simpler melodies if they want, or they can get crazy. I mean.
Yeah. I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, Dave, if I'm, reading into what you're saying incorrectly, but I think he's probably saying like Dream Theater is kind of known as, obviously a progressive band, but known for all the crazy musicianship and all this stuff. So if you show somebody like a 4-minute, pretty direct song, is somebody going to go, is that not getting the point of the band across? And I think my take on it is that I don't think showing someone the simpler stuff, I don't think that takes away from giving someone the correct impression, because I think it can be really overwhelming. Like, I mean, you said A Change of Seasons. That's a perfect example. I mean, if somebody's going to go, oh, I wonder if I'm going to like this band. Well, here, check out this 23-minute song.
Yeah, no, not that one.
Yeah, exactly. So I think these simpler songs, like they give you a good taste of what the band is capable of, because the songwriting is great, but there's the one thing that Dream Theater has that I don't think anybody, their detractors really give credit to, is the fact that there's a melodic anchor in every single song.
Yeah.
And there's just there's hooks for days. Even if it's not in the vocal, they're being the guitars or the keys or something. So I don't think you get the wrong impression, because you kind of get a taste for the flavor of what they do and what they sound like. And then as you dig deeper into the catalog, then you get some of the crazier stuff, and you're like, whoa, what is that? But you're already into the vocal parts and the melodies. And then once you get into the crazy soloing and the dual leads and all the wackiness, like, something like the middle of Dark Eternal Night, then
Yep.
I think you're kind of prepared for it. So,
And stay away from the first album. I mean, that's just, and
I can't wait till we do that episode, man.
I know. And so, I'll specifically stay away from Light Fuse and Get Away. Just that is the one song that that does not sound like Dream Theater. It's I don't know what it sounds like. And Kevin Moore, I love you, but I don't know what you were like. I mean, the song title alone, and if you're talking Exodus or Testament or Overkill, cool song title, but but no, I mean, I'm kind of joking, but if you really want to get into Dream Theater and the essence of it, skip the first album, go to Pull Me Under, go to Another Day, go to Surrounded, if you're feeling, quote unquote adventurous,
Yeah.
go to Metropolis, or what did we say, Looking Glass, or
Looking Glass, Paralyzed, stuff like that.
yeah, Paralyzed. Yeah. I think the stuff off the Backs of Angels. There's plenty of stuff on Dramatic Turn. Some of the beginning songs.
Yeah, that's a good one.
But
my buddy Matt Wardlaw, what's up, man? He says 6 Degrees. That's he can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's his favorite record. We both love that one. We went to that tour in 2002 in Chicago, so
Yep.
that was my first ever road trip to see a Dream Theater show. The first of basically every tour ever since. And again, it was Chicago, so. Yeah, I love that one. So, yeah, I don't know.
Matt with the comments.
Of course.
I don't think Bret Michaels ever sang with Dream Theater, did he? Not to my knowledge.
They wouldn't have a career if he did.
If there's video or jam sessions of that, I want to see it.
It's like that YouTube video of Lars Ulrich trying out for Dream Theater.
Yeah.
That's funny, man. It's weird. I'm trying to think of other songs that would be considered kind of like gateway songs.
See, we're killing our possible next episode by doing this, but that's fine.
Well, we've done one episode. I think we can come up with plenty more stuff for future episodes.
I don't know, man. Well, I mean, the most obvious one to me, I would have had number one is "Walk Beside You." I mean, that's almost like a 80s mid-tempo AOR rocker, for lack of a better term. I mean, the only thing on the Astonishing, I'd say, Brave New World, or New World rather.
Our New World, yeah,
Our New World.
Yeah, I love that. That's a great riff too.
I mean, those are both 4.5 minute songs with big guitar riffs. You got a solo, and you don't really have, I don't think, any other type of jamming going on.
Yeah,
but those are almost, I don't want to say dumbing it down, but that's about as probably basic as they get.
Yeah, it's very direct. I think there's probably some. I honestly, it was funny because when we're talking about images and words, I think that the new album might be kind of a good, might be kind of a good gateway type of a record as well, because I think that's, it's. I think it's got some really direct stuff as well, and I mean they tried to shorten it up a little bit and make things a little more concise.
Yeah. I agree 100%.
So I think the first two singles off of that record are pretty damn good. They're not too proggy. Fall Into the Light and Untethered Angel. I think those are really cool.
Paralyzed.
Yeah, Paralyzed. Yeah. Out of Reach is a slow, pretty straightforward ballad. So that's a great song. So I think that would have some good choices on it as well. So
we have a lyrics question. Do you know that one? I don't know if he's being serious or not.
Yeah,
I'm not that great with lyrics, so.
So Dave says, Idea for a future show: what current guitarists and other bands do you think would be cool to have in Dream Theater, and who has the chops to hang with them? That's interesting because it goes beyond a technical thing. We can definitely discuss that, in more detail. I just think,
Should we save it or
yeah, probably. Let's see. Here we go.
don't start?
Lorenzo, do y'all think it's time for James to hire backup singers? No.
We're talking like doo-wop Motown, like people do this, or what does he mean backup singers? Like an understudy or something?
Yeah.
If he's sick or something?
Yeah. No, I mean I know this has been like a topic on fan boards and stuff, but I mean I've like I say, I haven't missed a tour since the first time I saw him in 2000, and I think he still sounds fine. He sounds great. So, especially when you consider some of his contemporaries that sound like absolute dog crap, like somebody like David Lee Roth and Van Halen, which was just like somebody stepping on a goose.
Yeah.
But
yeah, he reminds me more of like Don Dokken, like dude just nails it every night.
Now.
Sorry.
Yeah, so Lorenzo says for his high notes. Well, I mean, but the high notes are cool. I mean, he still does almost all of them. The only songs where he really doesn't anymore is stuff like on the 25th anniversary tour when they did Another Day, because those things are, or the end.
The end of Surrounded. He's way up there too.
Well, and the end of Learning to Live. I mean, that's just a beastly note. So, no, I mean, I think he still sounds fine, and especially given his age. I mean, he's in his late 50s. So these guys are gonna lose a little bit as they age, and of anybody I can think of, he's definitely still way up there for me. And like I said, we just saw him on the last tour, so they sounded fine.
It's interesting in some of these other, these other groups or fan pages, and man, the Labrie bashing is just. I don't know what concerts I've been to plenty. I have never seen him have the type of shows that these people, talk about. Now, I'm sure he's probably had some tours where by the end of the tour, he's beaten, worn out, but I have never personally seen him sound, anything less than, I don't know, 75% maybe,
He's been great every time I've seen him. The only time I think we ever really heard him have honest problems were, early in his career, like, the Awake tour and maybe a little bit on Falling Into Infinity after he had that, the food poisoning thing. So that obviously tore him up, and he admitted as much. And then he had that run a couple years ago, that European run where he got really sick with the flu or something, and it just beat the hell out of his voice, and he had to keep touring. So he was a little tore up. But that was, again, he got sick, and as a singer myself, and you sing, I mean, you know what it's like to have to actually perform when you got the flu. And you got all that phlegm going on. It's next to impossible, much less to do some of the vocal gymnastics that he has to do in their music. So, I'm kind of with you. It's like I don't know what people expect. I mean, I think it's probably just these guys are almost superhuman in a way. They're on that pedestal to all of us because they're so damn good at what they do.
Yeah.
That unless you get absolute perfection, like I've heard people. God, was it? I think it was live at Budokan. Mike Portnoy blows a fill going into the. It's actually going into the. My favorite solo is theirs. The Test That Stumped Them All. When it goes da 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 da. Well, he goes da 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 da, and he kind of clunks it wrong. I've heard people bag on him for that. And I'm like, man, like of all you get a 2.5 3 hour concert, and that's what you're gonna. That's what you're gonna comment on.
Where the guy literally never stops moving his limbs the entire night. Like, oh, I got you. Yeah. I got you. You missed a note right there. Like, come on, really?
I caught you, Portnoy.
Yeah, exactly.
You can't slide that past me.
Yeah, you did a total of like 450 million motions with your feet and arms, rhythmically in time. But there was the one. Like I wonder if you actually counted, every single time you move, you move or do something between him and Mangini, what the physical, what they do in those songs, you know what I mean? And just, to do something like that, it's like, oh, come on. Really get out of here.
Dude, that's what I say. It's like, I mean, it's a live band. I mean, you're going to have things like that, and who cares? I mean, especially with a band like Dream Theater, where you hear one like twice a tour or whatever. Like,
right.
I mean, like, who really cares? So, Well, cool, man. Well, this has been a lot of fun. So
Yeah.
want to thank everybody for tuning in to our first episode here. Our next broadcast is going to be on Thursday, January 28th. So a little under 2 weeks from now, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Again, you can catch the show on our Facebook page, on our YouTube channel. So come in and thanks Lorenzo and Dave and Steve and everybody, Wardlaw, my buddy Matt Wardlaw, for throwing questions out there and comments and being a part of it and everything. So we appreciate it, man. It was a really good time. And if you guys have any ideas for shows or something like that, just hit us up and let us know what you're thinking. So
yeah, this was fun, and thanks to Matt Johnson too for tuning in. And yeah, leave us comments on what kind of topics you want to do in the future. We're all in. Go Dream Theater.
Yeah, it's like a sports thing. Go Dream Theater.
Yeah.
All right. Well, cool. All right. Well, thanks everybody, and just for anybody who wants to listen back to this at some other time, it is going to be available on a large number of audio podcast sites as well. So that should be up later today or tomorrow, so you can catch the full broadcast of the show. So thanks again for tuning in. I am John. He's my buddy Brian, and we will catch you guys on the next show.